The mop bucket hits the concrete floor at 6:47 p.m. Gray water exploding across the gym's entrance in a wave that soaks Marcus Webb's worn work boots and spreads toward the heavy bags hanging in the corner. Tommy Tank Morrison's boot is still extended from the kick, steel toe leather gleaming under the fluorescent lights, and his laugh comes out like gravel scraping metal. His crew joins in, 5 men in iron riders, cuts standing behind him like a wall of leather and chrome, their voices bouncing off the cinder block walls of Steeltown Boxing Gym. Marcus stands there for 3 seconds, maybe 4, his calloused hands still gripping the mop handle, watching the water snake across the floor he'd just finished cleaning for the 2nd time that evening. He's 47 years old, wearing a gray maintenance uniform with Webb stitched in faded red thread over the pocket. And he doesn't say a word, just sets the mop handle against the wall with careful precision, the kind of movement that suggests muscle memory from some other life, and walks to the supply closet for towels. Tank watches him go, that predator grin spreading wider. "That's right, janitor boy. Clean it up real good," he calls out, his voice carrying that particular edge of a man who's never been told no. The crew laughs again, positioned near the speed bags they never actually use, taking up space like they own it. Marcus returns with an armful of industrial towels, his movements economical and practiced. No wasted motion as he kneels and begins soaking up the mess. His hands tell stories his mouth won't. Knuckles that have been broken and healed wrong. Scars across the backs of his fingers. Calluses built on calluses. Near the ring, Jake Collins stops mid-combination on the heavy bag, his wraps dark with sweat, watching the scene unfold with something sick twisting in his stomach. He's 25, been training here since his Golden Gloves days, and he's watched this same scene play out a dozen times in the past 3 months. Tank deliberately stepping into Marcus's path, knocking over equipment, making demands, and Marcus taking it all with that quiet dignity that makes Jake wonder what kind of man accepts humiliation without even a flash of anger in his eyes. Marcus wrings out the last towel into the bucket, the water streaming between his fingers with the same precision he applies to everything, and stands slowly like his knees carry weight nobody else can see. Before I continue the story, please subscribe. I need to reach 1,000 subscribers so I can keep bringing you stories like this every day. It's just one click for you, but it means a lot to me. Thank you. 3 months back, Tank Morrison pushed through the doors of Steeltown Boxing Gym with 5 men behind him, all wearing Iron Riders cuts, and by the end of that first week they'd marked their territory like wolves pissing on trees. The pattern established itself quick and brutal. Marcus would be cleaning the windows near the heavy bags, and Tank would walk past close enough to bump him, send his cleaning solution splashing. "Watch where you're standing, old man." The crew, all 6 of them counting Tank, treated the place like they'd bought it, instead of just paying monthly dues. They'd sprawl across the benches Marcus had just wiped down, boots up on the equipment, calling out to him like he was a servant they'd hired. "Janitor boy, we need fresh towels over here." "Move faster, we got real training to do." The words changed, but the tone stayed the same, that casual cruelty of men who'd found someone they could push without consequences. Frank Peterson saw all of it from his post, behind the scarred wooden desk up front. 53 years old, 20 years running this gym. Former boxer himself, back when the neighborhood still had factory jobs and hope. And he said nothing. Tank's crew paid their $300 a month, always in cash. Always with that smile that suggested the money bought more than just access to the equipment. Frank would look at Marcus with something like apology in his eyes, then look away faster. And the gym kept running on Tank's terms. The other members learned the ecosystem quick enough. When the Iron Riders showed up around 6 each evening, everyone else found different spaces to occupy, different bags to hit, eyes down and mouths shut. Marcus moved through it all like water around rocks, mopping the floors they'd deliberately scuffed, replacing the tape they'd unrolled and scattered, his worn work uniform darker with sweat by the end of each shift, but his face never showing what it cost him. Jake Collins noticed what the others didn't because he couldn't look away. He'd catch Marcus standing near the ring when the serious fighters sparred, positioned where he could see the footwork, and Marcus's eyes would track every movement with surgical precision. Not casual watching. Studying. When someone threw a combination, Marcus's shoulders would shift microscopically, his weight redistributing like his body wanted to demonstrate the counter they'd missed. Jake watched him in the storage room once during a break. Marcus's hands moving through defensive patterns in the air, his feet gliding across concrete in positions too perfect for a man who supposedly never fought. The crew called him Invisible Man and the Cleaning Lady. And Marcus took it all without a word. But those eyes stayed sharp as surgical steel, always watching, always seeing things that made Jake wonder what kind of fighter could discipline himself into disappearing this completely. Tank's phone buzzes at 7:15 p.m. while he's wrapping his hands at the bench nearest the ring, and whatever he sees on that screen drains the color from his face in seconds. He stands up fast enough to knock the tape roll clattering across the floor, his jaw working like he's chewing glass, and then he's moving. The speed bag takes the first hit, Tank's fist slamming into it so hard the chain snaps and the bag flies across the gym, leather splitting when it hits the wall. His crew freezes, recognizing something dangerous in their leader's movements. And Jake stops mid-punch on the heavy bag, ice flooding his stomach. "Dylan," Tank says, and it comes out strangled. They're beating him, some underground match in the warehouse district. He's hurt bad. The heavy bag goes next. Tank ripping it from its chain with both hands. 100-pound bag of sand and leather crashing to the concrete. Frank Peterson rises from behind his desk, hands up in a placating gesture, but Tank's not seeing him, not seeing anything except whatever images his phone showed him of his 19-year-old brother getting destroyed. Marcus appears from the locker room with a mop, probably heard the commotion, and Tank spots him like a shark spots blood in water. Tank snarls, closing the distance in 3 strides, standing there like everything's normal, like the world's not on fire. Marcus opens his mouth, maybe to respond, maybe just to breathe. And Tank shoves him with both hands. Full strength, rage and panic channeled into violence against the nearest target. Marcus goes backward toward the cinder block wall, and for a split second Jake thinks he's about to watch a 47-year-old janitor get his skull cracked against concrete. But Marcus moves. His left foot slides back, weight redistributing with fluid precision. His right hand coming up to the wall at the exact angle to absorb impact without injury, his body turning slightly so his shoulder takes what his head would have taken. He catches himself like a cat, like a fighter, reflexes too fast and too trained for a man who pushes a mop. Tank's already turning away, not even registering what just happened, barking orders at his crew. "Let's go, now." They follow him toward the exit, boots hammering concrete. But Tank stops at the door, wheels back to Frank, who's standing there looking smaller than his 53 years. "We pay to keep this place protected, Peterson." "Protected. You understand? This gym stays open because we allow it." Then they're gone, engines roaring to life outside, 6 motorcycles screaming into the night toward whatever violence waits for them. The gym settles into shocked silence, equipment scattered across the floor like a tornado touched down. Marcus straightens slowly, brushing dust from his uniform, and walks to where the speed bag landed. Jake joins him without being asked, picking up the torn heavy bag, and they work together in quiet for 2 minutes before Jake finally speaks. "You moved like a fighter." Marcus keeps gathering scattered hand wraps, his face neutral, voice flat when he responds. Some debts take time to pay. Jake stays late that night because sleep feels impossible after watching Tank explode, and Marcus catch himself against that wall with reflexes that don't match his job description. It's 9:30 p.m. when Frank locks the front door and heads home, leaving Jake with a key and a promise to set the alarm on his way out. The gym feels different, empty. Just the hum of fluorescent lights and the smell of sweat-soaked leather and industrial cleaner. Jake works the speed bag for 20 minutes, trying to lose himself in rhythm. But his left shoulder starts screaming the way it has since the rotator cuff injury ended his Golden Gloves career 3 years back. 25 years old and already past tense, former contender, The what if that keeps him coming back to gyms even though he'll never fight professionally again. He's wrapping up his hands, ready to call it, when he hears something from the storage room in back. Movement. The shuffle of feet on concrete. Jake moves quiet toward the half-open door, expecting maybe Marcus forgot something, maybe Frank came back, but what he sees through the gap freezes him in place. Marcus Webb is shadow boxing in the small space between metal shelves, stacked with cleaning supplies and equipment. No music, no timer, just Marcus and whatever opponent exists in his head. And the movement is perfection. His feet glide across the concrete in patterns so fluid they look choreographed, weight shifting from leg to leg with explosive precision, his body rotating through combinations that Jake recognizes from textbooks and training videos. Jab, jab, slip left, hook to the body, uppercut, pivot out. The technique is flawless. Each punch thrown with full extension but pulled at the last microsecond. The kind of control that takes decades to develop. Marcus's breathing is controlled, rhythmic. His 47-year-old body moving like it's carved from memory and muscle that refuses to forget. Jake watches a 3-punch combination that would make professional trainers weep. The kind of technical mastery you see once in a career if you're lucky, Olympic-level footwork and hand speed that shouldn't exist in a janitor's body. Marcus throws a left hook that could take a man's head off, pulls it perfect, resets his stance, and that's when Jake pushes the door open. Who are you really? Marcus stops mid-combination, his hands dropping, chest rising and falling with controlled breaths. Sweat darkens his gray work shirt. For 5 seconds he just looks at Jake, measuring what to say, what to reveal, and Jake sees something like resignation cross his face. Just a janitor kid. His voice is flat, dismissive, but his hands are still positioned in a fighter's guard. Jake steps into the storage room, closes the door behind him, his own fighter's instincts reading everything Marcus's body language says. Nobody moves like that. Nobody. I spent 8 years boxing, trained with Golden Gloves champions, and I've never seen footwork that clean outside of Olympic footage. Marcus's jaw tightens, something flickering behind his eyes. You should go home, Jake. That combination you just threw, Cuban style, Eastern European influence, the kind of technique they don't teach in regular gyms. Jake moves closer, his voice dropping. The way you caught yourself when Tank shoved you. Professional reflex. And I've been watching you for 3 months. Watching you watch fighters like you're grading their homework. Marcus picks up a container of floor cleaner, pretends to read the label, but his hands shake slightly. I'm 47 years old, working nights cleaning up other people's sweat. That's who I am. That's what you do, Jake corrects. Not who you are. Marcus sets down the cleaner and leans against the metal shelf. The fluorescent light overhead casting shadows across his face that make him look older than 47, tired in a way that goes deeper than muscle and bone. You want to know who I am? Marcus Webb, 1996, Atlanta Olympics, bronze medal, middleweight division. The words come out flat, like he's reading someone else's obituary. Jake's breath catches because he knows that name, remembers seeing it years ago in boxing history videos. But the connection never clicked until this moment. Marcus continues, his voice steady but his eyes fixed on the concrete floor. Had a manager named Eddie Krause, who handled my career, my money, my contracts, everything. I was 28. Thought I had the world figured out. Made it to the Olympic semifinals, and Eddie wanted me to throw the match. Said the money was better in the loss. Had some deal worked out with people I didn't ask questions about. He pauses, his calloused hands opening and closing. I refused. Won my semifinal legitimately, lost in the finals, took home bronze. American flag behind me on that podium, greatest moment of my life. The light above them flickers once. Eddie destroyed me for it. Spread rumors I'd been fixing fights all along, that the Olympic Committee was investigating me. Leaked false documents to the press. Paid off people to lie. My sponsors dropped me. Gyms wouldn't train me. Promoters wouldn't touch me. My wife Sarah couldn't handle the scandal. the reporters camped outside our house, the way people looked at us in grocery stores. She left, took our daughter, Emma. Emma was 8 years old. Marcus's voice cracks on the name, just slightly, a hairline fracture in concrete. Lost custody because I couldn't prove my innocence. Couldn't afford lawyers who could fight Eddie's money. Spent 15 years trying to rebuild in anonymity, moving city to city, working construction, warehouses, anywhere that didn't ask questions about my past. Took this janitor job 6 years ago because I wanted peace. Wanted to be invisible. Wanted to stop fighting. He looks up at Jake finally, and his eyes carry weight that makes Jake want to look away. I'm done fighting, Jake. That man who won Olympic bronze, who stood on that podium believing the world was fair. He died a long time ago. I'm just the janitor who cleans up the mess. Jake doesn't believe him. Can't believe him after watching that shadow boxing. But he nods slowly. Marcus moves toward his locker in the corner, the old gray one with the combination lock, and opens it with practiced movements. Inside, Jake sees the worn Olympic team jacket, red, white, and blue, faded with time, and taped to the locker door is a newspaper clipping yellowed at the edges. The photo shows a young Marcus Webb, 28, and unmarked by the world, standing on an Olympic podium with a bronze medal around his neck and the American flag rising behind him. His smile in that photo is something Jake's never seen on the Marcus he knows. The smile of a man who still believed in things. Tank Morrison returns at 10:45 p.m., and Jake hears the motorcycles before he sees them. 6 engines cutting through the night, like chainsaws through silence. The front door slams open hard enough to crack the frame, and Tank storms in with his crew behind him, all of them carrying the specific energy of men who've just watched something terrible and need somewhere to put the violence still buzzing in their blood. Dylan's not with them. Tank's knuckles are split, blood on his leather jacket that might be his or might be someone else's. Tank's voice cuts across the empty space. Jake's still near the storage room. Marcus beside him. And they both go still. Frank appears from the office, moving carefully like approaching a wild animal. Tank! It's late. We're closed. Dylan's in the hospital, Tank interrupts. His words clipped and brutal. Broken ribs. Concussion. They beat him like a dog in that warehouse. 19 years old, and they wouldn't stop. His crew spreads out behind him, blocking the exit, and Jake's fighter instincts scream danger. Tank's eyes lock on Marcus. You! He crosses the gym in long strides, rage needing a target, any target. You cost me 20 minutes of training time today with your mess. 20 minutes I could have been preparing my brother, getting him ready, making sure he didn't walk into that ring unprepared. Marcus stands his ground in the locker room doorway, his voice quiet. I'm sorry about your brother. You're sorry? Tank moves closer, crowding Marcus's space. I'm going to teach you some respect, old man. Show you what happens when you waste my time. His hand shoots out, grabbing Marcus's work shirt, pulling him close. You think you're invisible? Think you can just exist in my space without consequences? Frank rushes over, hands shaking. Tank, please. Not here. I can't. Fire him, Tank says, not looking away from Marcus. Fire him right now, or I'm done with this gym. My money, my crew, we're gone. And good luck keeping this place open without our protection. The silence stretches for 5 seconds that feel like minutes. Frank's face crumples, decades of pride dying in his eyes. Marcus, I'm sorry. You're fired. Effective immediately. I can't afford trouble. Jake steps forward. Frank, you can't. Stay out of this, Jake. Frank won't meet anyone's eyes. Tank releases Marcus, stepping back with satisfaction spreading across his face like poison. Marcus doesn't argue, doesn't defend himself, just moves to his locker with that same careful precision. He takes out the newspaper clipping, folds it once, twice, slides it into his pocket. The Olympic jacket comes next. Worn blue fabric that's seen better decades. Then a photograph Jake hadn't noticed before. A little girl with dark hair and Marcus's eyes, maybe 7 or 8 years old. frozen in time before everything fell apart. Marcus closes the locker for the last time, turns to Jake. "Sometimes the fight isn't worth what you lose." His voice is steady, but Jake sees his hands, the way they're shaking, trembling with something that isn't fear. It's restraint, the physical effort of a fighter forcing himself not to fight. An Olympic bronze medalist choosing invisibility over violence. And Jake understands in that moment what it costs Marcus to walk away. What it's cost him for 6 years. Jake sits in his apartment at 2 a.m. with his laptop glowing in the darkness, searching Marcus Webb's name and finding fragments of a destroyed life scattered across the internet like shrapnel. The first articles are from 1996, triumphant headlines about the middleweight who brought home bronze for America. Photos of young Marcus with his fists raised and hope still intact in his eyes. Then 1997, and the tone shifts. Olympic bronze medalist under investigation for match fixing. Marcus Webb, accused of throwing fights. Corruption scandal rocks boxing. Jake reads every article twice. Following the trail Eddie Krause left behind like blood spatter at a crime scene. The manager had been methodical, feeding stories to 3 different sports journalists, providing evidence that later turned out to be fabricated documents showing suspicious betting patterns. Marcus's denials got buried on page 6, while the accusations lived on front pages. Online forum posts from boxing enthusiasts debating whether Marcus's Olympic semifinal was legitimate, whether his bronze medal meant anything, whether he'd been dirty all along. Jake finds a 1998 article about the divorce, Sarah Webb filing on grounds of emotional distress and financial instability, the judge granting her full custody of their daughter Emma, based on Marcus's unstable career prospects and ongoing legal troubles. No charges were ever filed because there was no actual evidence, but the damage was permanent. Marcus Webb became a cautionary tale, a name whispered as warning in boxing gyms. Jake digs deeper, switching to social media, and finds Emma Webb on the 3rd search. She's 22 now, lives in Riverside 2 hours east. Works as a medical assistant according to her LinkedIn profile. Her Facebook is private, but her profile picture shows a young woman with Marcus's sharp cheekbones and dark eyes, standing outside a hospital in scrubs, smiling at something beyond the camera's frame. She hasn't seen her father in 14 years based on the timeline. Doesn't know he's been cleaning floors 60 miles from where she lives. Doesn't know he kept her childhood photo in his locker like a prayer. Jake finds one more thing. A boxing forum thread from 6 months ago, titled, "Whatever Happened to Marcus Webb?" Most responses assume he's dead or gave up the sport entirely. One comment from a user named TruthSeeker89 claims to have seen Marcus working construction in Ohio in 2015. Said he looked like a ghost of himself. The final comment, posted 3 months ago, suggests someone should track him down for a "Where are they now?" piece. Give him a chance to tell his side. Nobody responded. Jake closes his laptop at 3:47 a.m. with a plan forming in his mind. Rough and half-formed, but growing clearer. Marcus spent 15 years invisible, punishing himself for refusing to be corrupt, losing everything because he chose honor over money. Tank Morrison has been terrorizing that gym for 3 months, driving away members, threatening Frank. And now he's cost Marcus the one small piece of dignity he had left. And somewhere 2 hours away, Marcus's daughter lives her life. Not knowing her father kept her photograph like other men keep religious medals. Jake understands something Marcus doesn't yet. Sometimes the fight isn't about winning. Sometimes it's about refusing to stay invisible. 2 weeks without Marcus and Steeltown Boxing Gym transforms into something unrecognizable. The floors stay dirty. Sweat and grime. Building up in corners nobody bothers to clean. Equipment breaks and stays broken. The speed bag tank destroyed, still lying in pieces near the wall. Heavy bags developing tears that leak sand across the concrete like slow bleeding. The windows cloud with dust. The locker room smells like mildew and desperation. And the place starts feeling less like a gym and more like a tomb. Members notice Carlos Martinez, 62 years old and training here since 1995, stops showing up after Tank's crew takes over his usual heavy bag spot and refuses to move. Eddie Russo, 70 and still coaching young fighters 3 days a week, gets told by Tank that his old man advice isn't needed anymore, that this gym is for real men now. One by one, the old-timers disappear, 30-year veterans pushed out by 6 bikers who treat the space like their personal clubhouse. Jake watches the membership drop from 43 to 27 in 14 days. Frank Peterson sits behind his desk, looking like he's aged 5 years in 2 weeks, staring at bills he can't pay. Rent coming due with nothing in the account to cover it. Tank notices Frank's desperation, the way sharks notice wounded fish. He makes his offer on a Tuesday evening, leaning against the front desk with his crew positioned throughout the gym like they're already running it. $10,000 for the whole place, Peterson. Equipment, lease, everything. Frank's head snaps up. This gym's worth 10 times that. This gym's worth whatever I say it's worth, Tank corrects. His smile sharp. You're 3 months behind on rent. Can't keep the lights on. Members, leaving daily. I'm offering you a way out. Jake's cleaning up his station nearby, listening to every word, understanding what Tank really wants. The gym sits on prime real estate, isolated enough for privacy, big enough for storage, with a layout perfect for moving product. Tank doesn't want a boxing gym. He wants a distribution center with heavy bags as decoration. Frank's hands shake on the desk. I need time to think. You got until Friday, Tank says, pushing off the desk. Then my offer drops to 5. Jake stays late that night, walking through the empty gym, seeing what he hadn't let himself see before. Marcus didn't just clean this place. He maintained it, repaired it, kept it functioning through small acts nobody noticed until they stopped happening. The tape on the bags applied with precision. Equipment positioned for optimal use. Floors cleaned in patterns that prevented wear. Marcus held this place together with more than a mop and bucket. He held it together with care. Marcus works the night shift at Riverside Distribution Center, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., loading trucks with boxes that all weigh the same 40 pounds and blur together into one endless repetitive motion that leaves his shoulders screaming and his mind blessedly empty. He's 47 years old, wearing a yellow safety vest over his work shirt, moving with the same economical precision he applies to everything, and by 6 a.m. he's so tired the exhaustion sits in his bones like concrete. His studio apartment is 12 minutes from the warehouse. 4th floor walk-up, 400 square feet of sparse and clean that costs $800 a month and contains almost nothing personal. A bed, a table, 2 chairs, a small kitchen he barely uses. The Olympic jacket hangs in the closet behind 3 work uniforms. The newspaper clipping and Emma's photo sit on the table where he can see them. The only decoration in a space that feels more like a cell than a home. Some nights he dreams about 1,996, training for Atlanta. His father, in his corner at the gym they used to own together. His father was 50 then, former Marine, hands like iron, and a voice that could cut through chaos. Real strength is knowing when to fight and when to walk away, Marcus. Any fool can throw punches. Takes a man to choose his battles. Marcus had nodded, young and certain, not understanding that some battles you walk away from and spend the rest of your life wondering if you should have fought. He believes he's walked away from everything that mattered, turned invisibility into an art form. And maybe that's strength, or maybe it's just survival. Wearing strength's clothing. The letter arrives on a Thursday, forwarded from Steeltown Boxing Gym with Frank's handwriting on the envelope, redirecting it to Marcus's apartment. The return address says Emma Webb, Riverside, and Marcus's hands shake opening it. Her handwriting is neat, controlled. The words measured. Dear Dad, I've been looking for you for 6 months. Found a record of your employment at Steeltown Gym. I'd like to meet, talk, maybe understand what happened all those years ago. I'm not angry anymore, just want to know you. Please call me. Her phone number sits at the bottom like an invitation to a life he thought he'd lost forever. Marcus reads it 4 times, his chest tight, because she'd found him at the gym and he's not there anymore. That tenuous connection severed 2 weeks ago by Tank Morrison's rage and Frank Peterson's fear. He'd been 60 miles from his daughter for 6 years. Invisible and unknown. And the moment she reached out, he'd disappeared again. Jake's at the gym on Tuesday evening, wrapping his hands at the bench farthest from Tank's crew, trying to be invisible the way Marcus taught him through example, when he hears Dylan Morrison's voice cutting through the general noise. The kid showed up yesterday. Ribs still wrapped from the beating. Moving careful but determined. And now he's talking to his brother near the office, with enough venom in his voice to make Jake go still. "I want another shot at Ryan Cortez. That semi-pro punk who put me in the hospital. I want him in a ring where there's no ref to stop it." Tank's response is low, measured, the tone of a man who's been planning something. Already handled. Friday night. Right here. Turning this gym into a proper venue. Invitation only. $50,000 purse winner takes all. Jake keeps his head down, continues wrapping his hands with exaggerated focus. But his ears are locked on their conversation. One of Tank's crew, a guy named Vic with a scar running through his eyebrow, laughs. "Cortez took the bait?" "Course he did," Tank says. 50 grand to a semi-pro working security jobs? He practically begged for the slot. Stupid kid doesn't know Dylan's been training with actual fighters since he got out of the hospital. Doesn't know we've rigged the rules to make it a street fight with gloves. Dylan's voice turns eager. "And his girlfriend's going to watch?" The silence that follows makes Jake's stomach drop. Tank's laugh is dark, satisfied. Emma Webb's going to have front row seats to watch her boyfriend get destroyed. And her old man's going to be there too, whether he wants to be or not. Sent him a special invitation this morning. Jake's hands freeze mid-rap because that name, Emma Webb, connects to Marcus like a punch he didn't see coming. Tank continues, his voice carrying that specific pleasure of a man unveiling a plan months in the making. "You know who our janitor really was? Marcus Webb. 1,996 Olympics. I fought him in regionals 20 years ago, lost in 3 rounds, never got my career back. I've been looking for that son of a bitch for 2 decades, and 6 months ago I found him pushing a mop at this dump." The pieces slammed together in Jake's mind with brutal clarity. The harassment wasn't random. The daily humiliation wasn't just Tank being a bully. It was methodical revenge, Tank breaking down the man who'd broken him 20 years ago. And now he'd found a way to hurt Marcus deeper than fists ever could. Through his daughter, through watching someone she loves get hurt while Marcus stands powerless. 3 days, Tank says. Friday night, 10 p.m. We take Frank's gym, run our operation through it after this. And Marcus Webb gets to watch his daughter cry. 20 years I've waited for this. Jake finishes, wrapping his hands with movements he doesn't remember making, his mind racing through options and finding none good. 3 days until Tank destroys what's left of Marcus's life, and Marcus doesn't even know it's coming. Jake spends Tuesday night in the same rabbit hole of internet archives and boxing records that led him to Marcus's story. Except this time, he's searching for Tommy Morrison. And what he finds turns his stomach. Tank's amateur record from 2003 to 2005 shows promise at first. 12 fights, 9 wins. Then a notation in regional championship records from April 2005 that stops Jake cold. Tommy Morrison versus Marcus Webb. Middleweight regional finals, Pittsburgh. Result: Webb by KO. Round 3, 2:47. Jake finds the full write-up in a boxing newsletter archive, the kind of detailed account that small regional matches used to get before everything went digital. The reporter described it as a masterclass in technical superiority. Wrote that young Marcus Webb, already Olympic-bound and training with world-class coaches, systematically dismantled the local favorite Morrison with precision that bordered on cruelty. 3 rounds of Morrison getting picked apart, his aggressive style exploited, his weaknesses exposed in front of his hometown crowd, until Marcus landed a combination in the 3rd that put Morrison on the canvas unconscious for 45 seconds. The newsletter mentioned Morrison was hospitalized overnight with a severe concussion. Jake finds Morrison's record after that fight. One more match 6 months later, a loss by decision, then nothing. Career over at 23. All the promise and potential erased by 3 rounds with a fighter who was simply better. But it's the forum posts Jake discovers that reveal the depth of Tank's obsession. A boxing forum from 2019 where someone with the username Iron Tank responds to a thread about Marcus Webb's scandal with barely contained satisfaction. Got what he deserved. Cheater got exposed. Some of us lost everything to him fair and square, and then he goes and fixes fights? Justice. Another post from 2023, Iron Tank, asking if anyone knows where Marcus Webb ended up, claiming he owes him a conversation about old times. Jake finds Tank's Facebook not private enough and scrolls back through years of posts. 6 months ago, a photo of Steeltown Boxing Gym's exterior with the caption, "Found something interesting." The pieces form a picture that makes Jake's hands clench into fists. Tank didn't stumble into that gym by accident. He tracked Marcus there, probably through employment records or private investigators, and he designed every moment of the past 3 months to break the man who broke him 20 years ago. The daily mockings weren't random cruelty. They were systematic humiliation. Tank forcing Marcus to be powerless, while Tank demonstrated dominance, reversing their roles from that night in Pittsburgh. And now Tank had discovered Emma, had researched Marcus's life thoroughly enough to find his daughter, her boyfriend, and the perfect way to destroy what little hope Marcus had left. He wanted Marcus there Friday night, wanted him to watch Ryan Cortez get beaten the way Tank had been beaten, wanted Marcus to see his daughter's pain and know he was powerless to stop it. The janitor who couldn't fight back. The Olympic bronze medalist reduced to invisible witness. Tank's revenge wasn't about violence. It was about erasure. About making Marcus watch himself lose everything again, while Tank finally won. Jake finds Marcus at the warehouse on Wednesday morning, 6:45 a.m., waiting by the employee exit as the night shift files out in their yellow safety vests, looking like exhausted ghosts. Marcus appears fourth from last, moving with that same careful precision even though exhaustion sits in every line of his body, and when he sees Jake leaning against the chain-link fence, his steps falter for just a moment before continuing forward. "Jake, you shouldn't be here." Marcus's voice is flat, wary. Tank's planning something Friday night. Jake pushes off the fence, closing the distance. Illegal fight at the gym. $50,000 purse. Dylan Morrison against a semi-pro named Ryan Cortez. He watches Marcus's face, sees nothing change, and continues. Emma's boyfriend. Tank knows who Emma is. Marcus. He knows she's your daughter. He's engineered this whole thing to hurt you. Marcus stops walking. His hands, already scarred and calloused, clench at his sides, the only visible reaction. Tank lost to you 20 years ago in regional finals. Pittsburgh, 2005. You knocked him out in 3 rounds, ended his career, and he's been holding that grudge ever since. He tracked you to the gym 6 months ago. Everything he's done, every day of mockery and humiliation, it's been revenge. The morning sun cuts across the warehouse parking lot, turning everything harsh and overexposed. Marcus's jaw works, processing, and when he speaks his voice comes out rough. I can't help. I can't fight. I'm not that man anymore. Emma's going to be there, Jake says. And his words land like body shots. She thinks she's watching her boyfriend win money for their future. Instead, she's going to see him get destroyed in a rigged fight, while Tank makes sure you're in the crowd watching, powerless. He wants you to see your daughter's pain and know you did nothing to stop it. Marcus's hands shake now. That same restrained trembling Jake saw the night he got fired. Violence and protection warring inside a man who spent 15 years choosing invisibility over action. I walked away from everything, Jake. That's what my father taught me. Real strength is knowing when to fight and when to walk away. He also taught you to choose your battles, Jake counters. You taught me something without knowing it. Watching you clean that gym every day with dignity while Tank's crew mocked you, that was strength. taking it, surviving it, not letting them break who you are inside. But there's another kind of strength. The kind your father taught you in that ring. The kind that protects people who can't protect themselves. Marcus turns away, starts walking toward the parking lot, where a 15-year-old Honda sits rusting in the morning light. Jake follows. Emma wrote you a letter. She wants to know you, understand you, maybe have a relationship again. And Tank's going to use her, hurt her, destroy that possibility before it even starts. I don't have anyone in my corner, Jake. Marcus stops at his car, one hand on the door, and when he looks back, his eyes carry all the weight of 15 years invisible. No gym, no trainer, no crew. I'm 47 years old working night shifts at a warehouse. What am I supposed to do? Jake makes the first call from his car outside the warehouse at 7:15 a.m. Scrolling through the gym's old membership records he'd photographed weeks ago when Frank wasn't watching. Eddie Russo answers on the second ring. 70 years old and sounding like he's been awake for hours. Jake Collins. Haven't seen you since Tank's crew took over my training spot. Jake doesn't waste time on pleasantries. Marcus Webb was the janitor. Olympic bronze medalist, 1,996. Tank's been torturing him for 6 months as revenge, and now he's setting up an illegal fight to hurt Marcus's daughter. I'm putting together a crew to fight back. The silence lasts 3 seconds. About damn time someone stood up. When and where? Carlos Martinez, retired heavyweight who trained at Steeltown for 32 years, answers his phone with suspicion that melts into something like relief when Jake explains. I've been waiting for someone to do something. That gym was sacred, and Tank turned it into his personal territory. Count me in. By noon, Jake has 6 former members committed, old-timers who remember what the gym used to be before Tank's crew colonized it, and they agree to meet at Marcus's apartment at 8 p.m. Marcus opens his door that evening to find his small studio invaded by big men. Carlos's heavyweight frame making the space feel even smaller. Eddie Russo moving with the careful precision of a 70-year-old whose joints remember every fight he's trained. There's Tommy Chen, 55, former welterweight who taught kids on weekends until Tank made it clear kids weren't welcome anymore. Ray Davidson, 48, who'd been training at Steeltown since he was 16. Mike Volkov and James Peterson, both in their 60s. Both looking like they've been waiting for this conversation for months. They arrange themselves around Marcus's apartment, sitting on the bed, the chairs, leaning against walls, and the energy in the room feels like a locker room before a fight. Jake stands in the center, laying out what he knows. Tank's running an illegal fight Friday night. Big money, rigged rules, using the gym as his venue. Marcus's daughter's boyfriend is fighting Dylan Morrison, and Tank's planned it so Marcus has to watch his daughter get hurt. We're going to stop it. He turns to Marcus. You enter the fight. You take Tank's money. You expose the operation and show Emma who her father really is. Marcus stands near his small kitchen, shaking his head. I can't ask you all to risk this. Tank's crew is dangerous. This could get violent. And I'm just You're Marcus Webb, Eddie Russo interrupts, his voice carrying the authority of 5 decades in boxing. You're not asking. We're telling. That gym was our home for 30 years before you ever pushed a mop there. But you kept it alive, maintained it, cared for it like it mattered. Now we return the favor. Carlos nods, his massive frame shifting. We've all been waiting for someone to fight back. Turns out that someone was there the whole time. We just didn't know it. The brotherhood forms in that moment, not around motorcycles and leather cuts, but around something older. Honor, protection. The understanding that some places are worth defending and some men deserve a corner when they finally decide to fight. They use the warehouse after Marcus's shift ends Thursday morning, 7 a.m. to noon, the loading dock area empty and echoing with the sound of feet on concrete and fists hitting the heavy bag Carlos brought from his garage. Marcus moves through combinations, Eddie calls out, and the muscle memory returns faster than anyone expected, his 47-year-old body remembering what his mind spent 15 years trying to forget. The jab comes back first, sharp and clean, then the footwork. that gliding movement that made him Olympic caliber. His hands remember the angles, the timing, the way to slip punches that haven't been thrown yet. Eddie Russo works him old school. No fancy equipment or modern techniques, just fundamentals drilled until they become instinct again. Hands up, chin down, move your head, make them miss. The same words Eddie's been saying for 50 years, and Marcus's body responds like, it's 1996, and Atlanta is tomorrow instead of 3 decades past. Friday morning, Carlos spars with him. The retired heavyweight pulling his punches but not his speed. And Marcus surprises everyone, including himself. He's fast. Shocking fast for 47. His reflexes still sharp enough to slip Carlos's jabs and counter with combinations that land with precision on the bigger man's guard. Carlos grins through his mouth guard. You've been holding out on us, Webb. Between rounds, Jake watches Marcus's face, sees something beyond physical preparation happening. Marcus isn't just training his body for a fight. He's preparing himself to see Emma for the first time in 14 years, preparing to be the man she deserves, instead of the invisible janitor who let the world break him. Every punch thrown carries weight beyond violence. Every combination a statement that he's done disappearing. Thursday night, Marcus borrows Jake's car and drives to Riverside Memorial Cemetery, the place he visits twice a year on his father's birthday and the anniversary of his death. His father's headstone is simple granite. Robert Webb, 1946 to 2012. Marine, father, teacher. And Marcus kneels in the grass beside it with his Olympic medal in his hand. The bronze catches the cemetery lights, that third-place finish that used to feel like failure until he learned how many people never make it to any podium at all. He places it on the headstone, the ribbon draped across his father's name. I'm fighting tomorrow, Pop. Not because I'm angry, not because I want revenge. Because someone needs protecting. Emma's going to be there, and Tank's planned something that'll hurt her if I don't stop it. You taught me real strength is knowing when to fight and when to walk away. Marcus's voice cracks slightly in the empty cemetery. I've been walking away for 15 years. Tomorrow, I stand still. He takes the medal back after 10 minutes, folds the ribbon carefully, and puts it in his jacket pocket where it sits against his heart. His father's words echo in his memory. That Marine voice that could cut through chaos and fear. Choose your battles, son. But once you choose, you fight with everything. Marcus has chosen. Steeltown Boxing Gym at 9 p.m. Friday night looks nothing like the place Marcus cleaned for 6 years, and everything like the criminal operation Tank always intended. 200 people pack the space. Bodies pressed close. The air thick with cigarette smoke and testosterone, and the electric anticipation of violence about to be bought and sold. Folding chairs arranged in rough rows around a regulation ring. Tank's crew installed that afternoon. Betting money flowing hand to hand in crumpled bills and marked envelopes, odds being shouted across the crowd like a stock exchange trading in blood. Tank's crew runs security. 6 men in Iron Riders cuts positioned at every exit, making it clear nobody leaves without permission, and the whole operation has the feel of something that'll end either in triumph or police sirens. Emma Webb arrives at 9:20 with Ryan Cortez, her dark hair pulled back, wearing jeans and Ryan's jacket that's too big on her frame, and she's nervous but excited in the way of someone who thinks they're watching their boyfriend win money for their future instead of walking into a trap designed to destroy her father. She doesn't know Marcus might be there, doesn't know Tank Morrison even knows her name, just threads through the crowd holding Ryan's hand while he nods at people who recognize him from the semi-pro circuit. Frank Peterson sits in the 3rd row, looking like a man attending his own funeral. Coerced into giving Tank access to the gym for the night, his 30 years of ownership meaning nothing against Tank's threats and money. Jake Collins arrives at 9:35 with Eddie Russo, both of them blending into the crowd separately. Carlos Martinez and the other old-timers scattered throughout the space like soldiers positioning for ambush, and nobody notices them because everyone's attention is on the ring where Tank stands with a microphone playing promoter. Marcus arrives last at 9:47. hood up on a gray sweatshirt. Jake bought him yesterday. Moving along the back wall where the lighting is dimmer, and even with his face partially visible, nobody recognizes the janitor they mocked for months because people don't see what they're not looking for. He spots Emma immediately, fourth row center, and something in his chest cracks seeing her adult face that still carries echoes of the 8-year-old who left with her mother 14 years ago. Tank's voice booms through the cheap sound system, announcing preliminary fights, hyping the crowd, playing the role of legitimate promoter while running an illegal operation, and the energy builds toward the main event, scheduled for 10:30. Ryan Cortez versus Dylan Morrison. $50,000 winner takes all, and Emma watches her boyfriend warm up near the corner, while Marcus watches Emma from the shadows. Jake positioned 3 rows behind her, and Tank surveys his domain with satisfaction. Believing everything is going according to plan, Tank's voice cuts through the crowd noise at 10:15, 15 minutes before the main event, and his smile carries the particular cruelty of a man unveiling a plan months in the making. Special edition tonight, folks. Open challenge before we get to the big show. Anyone here think they can take my boy Dylan? $5,000 cash. Right here, right now. Dylan Morrison climbs into the ring, ribs healed enough to fight. 20 years old and amped up on aggression and the need to prove something after his hospital stay. He bounces on his toes, throwing shadow combinations, and the crowd murmurs with interest, but nobody moves. $5,000 sounds good until you're the one taking punches from a kid who wants to hurt someone. Tank lets the silence build, playing the moment like theater. No takers? Come on. Somebody here's gotta need money bad enough. His eyes scan the crowd with predatory precision, and Marcus knows before Tank's gaze lands on him that this was always the plan, this public call-out, this humiliation designed for maximum damage. What about you, old man? Tank points directly at Marcus, standing against the back wall, hood up, invisible until this moment. Our former janitor. Marcus. What was your last name? Webb? Right? The crowd turns, 200 heads swiveling to follow Tank's finger, and Marcus feels exposure like physical weight. Emma's head snaps around in the 4th row, her body going rigid. And even from 30 feet away, Marcus sees recognition hit her face like a slap. She knows that name, heard it her whole childhood before everything fell apart. And now she's seeing the face that matches it for the first time in 14 years. Marcus's hood comes off slowly, no point hiding now, and the fluorescent lights catch his features clearly. He's 47, worn down by night shifts and survival, but his bone structure is the same. Emma remembers from childhood photos, those same dark eyes that look like hers when she catches her reflection. Her hand goes to her mouth. Ryan beside her looking confused, not understanding why his girlfriend just went pale. Tank's enjoying this, his voice booming through the microphone. Marcus Webb, ladies and gentlemen. Former Olympic bronze medalist, currently employed in janitorial services, or unemployed, I guess, since we had to let him go. Scattered laughter from people who don't understand what they're witnessing. Come on, Marcus. Show your daughter what her old man's made of. Or are you still just a janitor who cleans up other people's mess? Emma's standing now, pushing past Ryan, her voice cutting through the crowd noise. Dad? The word lands like a grenade in the space between them. Marcus climbs through the ropes with movements that feel both foreign and familiar. 15 years of rust fighting against muscle memory that never completely dies, and the canvas under his feet might as well be sacred ground he swore he'd never touch again. Emma's in shock in the 4th row, Ryan's arms around her shoulders trying to understand why his girlfriend is crying, and she's watching her father step into a ring for the first time since before she can remember. Eddie Russo is suddenly in Marcus's corner with Carlos and Tommy Chen. The old-timers materializing like they'd planned this. And Eddie's hands work fast, pulling off Marcus's sweatshirt, revealing a gray t-shirt underneath that's seen better years. We got you, Eddie says. And those 3 words carry 30 years of boxing wisdom. The bell rings at 10:18 p.m. and Dylan comes out aggressive, throwing wild punches with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. haymakers designed to end the fight in the first 30 seconds. Marcus moves defensive, his hands up, his feet carrying him backward in small circles, measuring Dylan's rhythm, reading his patterns, old instincts awakening like electricity through dead wires. Dylan connects with body shots, hard punches to Marcus's ribs that make him grimace. And the kid's got power, even if he doesn't have technique. Marcus takes them, absorbs them, doesn't fall, and his eyes stay focused on Dylan's shoulders, reading the next punch before it's thrown. Round 1 is Dylan's youth against Marcus's experience. The 19-year-old's aggression meeting the 47-year-old's survival instinct. And when the bell rings, Marcus returns to his corner, breathing hard but standing. Eddie works on him fast. Water and advice in equal measure. Stop thinking. Just feel it. Your body knows what to do. Round 2 starts at 10:24, and Marcus shifts, something fundamental changing in his stance. His weight distribution, the way he holds his hands. He stops retreating and starts countering, slipping Dylan's jab and answering with his own. And the movement becomes fluid, technical, beautiful in the way that only decades of training can produce. Dylan's getting frustrated now, his punches sloppier, his defense dropping, and Marcus sees openings that shouldn't exist in a professional fight, but do when anger replaces discipline. Marcus lands a combination that makes the crowd go silent. Jab, cross, hook, textbook perfection, each punch placed with surgical precision, and Dylan's head snaps back with the hook. The crowd watches the precision, like witnessing something they don't have language for. This 47-year-old janitor moving like an artist, and Emma's crying openly now, watching her father demonstrate what he was before the world broke him. Round 3 begins at 10:32, and Marcus is dominant now, controlling distance and timing like a conductor leading an orchestra. But something becomes clear to everyone watching who understands boxing. He's not trying to destroy Dylan Morrison, he's teaching him. Each punch Marcus lands is placed with purpose, demonstrating openings in Dylan's guard, showing the kid where his defense fails. His movement efficient but educational, a jab to show the dropped left hand, a body shot when Dylan's elbows rise too high, a hook when he turns his head instead of slipping. Dylan's breathing hard, frustrated, confused by this older man who's picking him apart without malice. And the final minute arrives, with Marcus clearly capable of ending this whenever he chooses. Instead, he steps back, lowers his hands slightly, creating space between them, and speaks loud enough for Dylan and the front rows to hear. "You're better than this. Don't fight his war." Dylan hesitates, his gloves dropping slightly, confusion replacing aggression, because nobody shows mercy in Tank's world, nobody teaches in the middle of destroying, and the moment stretches like pulled wire. Marcus moves then, final combination, jab, cross, uppercut delivered with precision that's clean but not brutal. Technique over violence, and Dylan's legs give out. He goes down hard but controlled, hitting the canvas and staying there. But his eyes are open and tracking. Not seriously hurt, just beaten by someone who could have destroyed him but chose otherwise. The crowd erupts, 200 voices creating chaos. Half of them not understanding what they just witnessed, and the other half recognizing mastery when they see it. Tank's face goes through stages of emotion in 3 seconds. Shock, rage, recognition. The understanding that his carefully planned humiliation just became something else entirely. Someone in the crowd, an old-timer who remembers boxing before it became purely business, shouts over the noise. "That's Olympic technique. Who is this guy?" Jake Collins stands in his section, his voice cutting through like a blade. "Marcus Webb, 1,996 Olympic bronze medalist. Atlanta Games." The information spreads through the crowd like fire through dry grass, people pulling out phones, searching. Finding photos of young Marcus on a podium with an American flag behind him, and the janitor they never noticed becomes someone they should have recognized. Emma's tears flow freely now, Ryan's arms around her but her eyes locked on her father standing in that ring, and truth crashes over her in waves. This is who he was. This is what he gave up. This is the man who wrote her back after 14 years because he never stopped being her father, even when the world told him he was nothing. Tank jumps into the ring before the referee can raise Marcus's hand. his boots hitting canvas with enough force to shake the ropes, and he moves straight at Marcus with 20 years of rage condensed into forward momentum. 20 years I've waited for this. You embarrassed me. Ended my career in 3 rounds in front of everyone I knew. His voice carries across the gym, raw and venomous. Marcus doesn't back up, doesn't flinch, meets Tank's eyes with the calm of a man who's done running. You ended your own career. I just won a fight. Tank throws a punch, telegraphed and desperate, and Marcus slips it easily, decades of training making the movement automatic, and Tank stumbles past him off balance. Tank's crew moves toward the ring from their security positions. 5 men converging, but Jake and the old-timers intercept them. Carlos Martinez's heavyweight frame blocking Vic's path, Eddie Russo and Tommy Chen positioning themselves between the ring and Tank's reinforcements. The gym fills with tension like pressure before an explosion. 200 people caught in a standoff they didn't expect. Marcus's voice cuts through the chaos, addressing Tank but speaking to everyone. This gym was supposed to be sacred. A place where people learned discipline, respect, how to be better than their worst instincts. You turned it into this. He gestures at the illegal betting, the criminal operation Tank built. Tank's breathing hard, his face red. I turned it into money, into power, into something that matters. Into nothing, Marcus corrects. Police sirens cut through the night outside, getting closer. And Frank Peterson stands near the front door with his phone in his hand, finally finding courage after months of intimidation. Tank's crew hears the sirens and scatters, the brotherhood of bikers dissolving fast when consequences arrive. 5 men heading for exits and finding Carlos and the old-timers blocking their paths. Tank tries to run, but Eddie Russo, 70 years old and still quick enough, blocks the rear exit with his body. The sirens stop outside, red and blue lights painting the gym's windows. Marcus stays in the ring, his eyes on Tank, his voice steady. You wanted to humiliate me in front of my daughter. Make me watch helpless while you hurt people I care about. Instead, she saw what I should have shown her years ago. That some things are worth fighting for. That you don't stay invisible when people need protecting. That her father isn't the broken man you tried to make him. Tank's shoulders slump as police push through the front door. The operation exposed, his revenge turned to ash. 2 months after Tank Morrison's arrest and the illegal fight operation's exposure, Steeltown Boxing Gym reopens under new ownership, with Marcus Webb's name on the deed Frank Peterson signed over for $1 and a handshake, and 30 years of gratitude. The place gets renovated with money from community fundraising and a few investors Jake found, who remember when boxing gyms were sacred spaces instead of criminal fronts. Fresh paint covers the cinder blocks, new equipment replaces what Tank destroyed, and the floors shine the way they used to when Marcus cleaned them every night. Marcus Webb, head trainer, has an office now with his name on the door, but he's rarely in it, preferring to work the floor with fighters who need technique more than they need speeches. Eddie Russo serves as assistant trainer, 70 years old and still calling out combinations that haven't changed in 5 decades, and Jake Collins manages operations, handling memberships and schedules, and making sure the place stays financially stable. The old-timers have their home back. Carlos Martinez on the heavy bags most afternoons, and weekend mornings, the gym fills with neighborhood kids training for free because Marcus remembers being young and needing somewhere to learn discipline. Marcus's Olympic bronze medal sits in a display case near the front entrance, the ribbon faded but the metal still catching light. And beneath it, a small placard reads, "Earned 1,996, claimed 2,025. Emma Webb trains there 3 days a week after her hospital shifts, learning boxing and learning her father in equal measure. The relationship rebuilds slowly, carefully, built on conversations in the ring between rounds, where she tells him about her life and he listens without making excuses for 15 years of absence. She talks about her mother, Sarah, who remarried 5 years ago to a kind man who treats her well, about medical school applications, about Ryan, who trains seriously now with Marcus in his corner, preparing for legitimate fights. Marcus doesn't try to reclaim lost time, just shows up present for the time they have now, teaching her to slip punches and throw combinations while answering questions about Atlanta and the scandal and what it cost him to walk away. Dylan Morrison appears one Tuesday evening in December, nervous in the doorway like a kid reporting to the principal's office. And the gym goes quiet when people recognize Tank's younger brother. He approaches Marcus, who's wrapping a heavy bag, his voice barely carrying across the space. "I was wondering if you'd train me, teach me the right way." Marcus considers him for 10 seconds that feel like minutes, measuring sincerity against history, then nods once. "Tuesday and Thursday, 6 a.m. sharp. You're late once. You're done." Dylan's shoulders drop with relief. The gym empties by 9 p.m. most nights. Fighters heading home to families and jobs and lives outside these walls. And Marcus stays late like he always has. He pushes the mop across the clean floors with the same dignity he showed when it was his job. But different now. Not hiding, not broken, just taking care of his home. Emma walks in at 9:30, her medical scrubs traded for jeans, and her father's old Olympic team jacket that fits her better than it fits him anymore. "Dad, you don't have to do that. We hired a cleaning service." Marcus smiles, the expression still unfamiliar on his face but getting easier. "I know, but some things you do because they matter, not because you have to." Emma picks up the second mop from the supply closet, the same one Marcus used for 6 years, and joins him without another word. They work together in comfortable silence, father and daughter cleaning a gym that belongs to both of them now, and the only sound is water on concrete and breathing that matches rhythm. Marcus's voice comes quiet, thoughtful. The words he spent 2 months finding. "I spent 15 years running from who I was. Took one night to remember, but it's taken 2 months to understand the difference between fighting to destroy and fighting to protect. My father was right. Real strength is knowing when to fight and when to walk away. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stand still and face what's coming. Not for yourself, for the people who need you to." Morning light starts breaking through the gym's windows, early dawn turning everything soft and gold, and their shadows stretch across the wall behind them. Above those shadows, visible on the newly painted cinder blocks, someone's mounted a poster of the Olympic rings, 5 interlocking circles representing something Marcus thought he'd lost, but only misplaced for a while. Emma glances at her father, sees him looking at those rings, and she understands without words being said that some victories take decades to claim.